It's the South Carolina Good Life Podcast with your host, SC Realtors CEO Nick Kremydas.
Hello, Realtors, and welcome to episode 6 of the Good Life Podcast. I have a very special guest with me this morning. I can't wait to introduce him to you, and I hope that you enjoy our conversation today. I want to remind you about a couple things first before we jump into this. We have been talking a lot about the Federal Rental Assistance Program. The South Carolina Housing Authority has over $271 million that's available to landlords. Tenants have to apply, but the money's directed straight to landlords to help offset up to 12 months of back rent and utilities. Only a fraction of those dollars have been distributed. We've got to help get the word out to our clients and customers that could take advantage, that need this assistance. As y'all have heard, the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down the CDC's order banning evictions, ruling that it was beyond their authority to do this to begin with. So we've got to focus on this rental assistance money, which expires at the end of September. Otherwise, the money goes back to the Treasury, and we won't be able to use it here in South Carolina. Michael put a link in the show notes here today on how you can get more information about the rental assistance program. It's called SC Stay Plus, and the larger counties have their own rental assistance monies, a total of $471 million, almost $500 million that can be put right back into South Carolina's economy. We've got to get the word out and focus on getting that assistance out, and the link will have information to help you out. So let me start by introducing our special guest today. He's the newest member of the Real Estate Commission, but he's no stranger to the real estate community here in Columbia and in many other parts of the state. Many of you know Gary Pickren. Gary has very deep ties to our real estate industry here in South Carolina. Since 1995, Gary has performed real estate closings, taught real estate agents, and advocated for all South Carolinians in changing South Carolina real estate law. Toward that end, Gary has started a weekly video blog, which he'll tell us a little bit about, that has over 4,000 subscribers. He even started a real estate podcast last year during COVID to better educate the real estate industry on issues that affect the closing process and other legal matters regarding real estate closings. Gary grew up right here in South Carolina in Spartanburg, or as our past president David Burnett likes to say, the real capital of South Carolina. And he graduated from Dorman High School and Wofford College. He went to law school in Alabama and came back to Columbia, where he's been an active member in the military community, serving as the Assistant Ombudsman Director for South Carolina in the employer support of the Guard, as well as raising money for the South Carolina Military Family Care Association. Gary and his wife and his family, his children, are avid travelers who love traveling the U.S. and Europe. They particularly enjoy our Western national parks. And if you're looking for a great city or a recommendation on a place to stay, I'm sure Gary could offer some advice. So, Gary, welcome to the Good Life Podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate you and the organization. And the first thing I do want to say is thank you as a member of this professional community, the hard work that you guys have done throughout our pandemic to, first of all, declare us essential. The work that you and this organization did to go to Henry McMaster together with Mark Nix at the Home Builders Association, Earl McLeod, and convince Governor McMaster that we needed to be declared essential. Housing is an essential part of what we do. And I just think about if you had not done what you had done, all of the people that would have lost jobs would have been financially harmed. You go back to looking at lenders, you look at appraisers, you look at inspectors, and had y'all not done what y'all did for us, we would not be in the position we are today. And I think everybody can look at this year and last year and say, wow, these have been the two best financial years for a lot of us in the real estate industry. And so my heartfelt thanks for that. I really appreciate it. And to me, that's the testimony of why we need to support the Realtor Association.
Thank
y'all
you.
Support us.
Thank you, Gary. It was definitely a team effort, and all of us banded together last year to keep the doors open. And with the support of not only Governor McMaster, but our local government leaders, we were able to do that. And the results have been what?
Amazing.
The hottest real estate market we've ever seen, at least in my career. And the numbers this year continue to show evidence of that success. I just got back from a meeting in Chicago where I got to meet with a few of my peers and to hear some of the stories in other states,
right?
Pennsylvania, New York, others who couldn't even contact their clients during the early parts of the pandemic. Wow. It's quite fortunate, and we're very blessed to be here in South Carolina.
Absolutely.
So, Gary, we're fortunate and blessed to have you as the newest member of the South Carolina Real Estate Commission.
Thank you.
Number one, thank you for your military service. Thank you for your professional volunteerism. I know you're very involved in your community here. I looked at you sent me a copy of some of your accomplishments, and they're way too long to list. and you're obviously very, very busy. Why were you interested in serving on the Real Estate Commission?
I've been practicing law since 1995, and when I first got into the practice of law, we all have mentors. You would think that mine would have been another lawyer. Mine actually was Ron Rowe. Ron Rowe was the CEO of Russell Jeffcoat, which was a rather large organization here in Columbia that has merged in, I guess, with Coldwell Banker. Ron, when I met him, was a real estate agent. And throughout his career, he went from real estate agent to broker in charge to vice president to president to CEO. And throughout that time of knowing Ron and I continued to move together. And at some point during Ron's move from broker to president, he asked me to be the corporate attorney for Russell Jeffcoat. And so in that representation of Russell Jeffcoat, when you're looking at 700 to 1,000 agents being represented, you're getting bombarded with questions about the law, 40-57, the statute that governs real estate agents. And so during that time frame, I really just developed a love for that statute and realized that how few people truly understood it in terms of lawyers as well as real estate agents. And so I started teaching classes on it. I started being asked by other agencies. I wound up, I think, representing 15, 20, 25 real estate agencies as well. And then I got into representing real estate agents before the commission. And over a 15-year period, I represented 50-plus real estate agents before the Real Estate Commission on grievances that had been filed against these agents. And I really decided then I really wanted to help the real estate agents because I don't think that there was a lot of good information out there to help them understand how 4057 worked. And I know y'all had spent a lot of time on your blogs that y'all had written information trying to let agents know these are areas that the commission was looking at. And so over the years of representing them there and then working with the Realtor Association, doing mediation, doing cases, I just realized that as lawyers we can do one thing. We can say, real estate agent, please give me your business. Handout. That's what our lawyers typically look for, right? That's what lawyers are. We ask for handouts. But it's hard for a real estate agent or attorney to give back to that agent because I can't pay you for your business. That violates RESPA. So how I looked at it is I could give back to my professional community. I could give back to my agents by giving them the value of information. And so at that point, I just decided I really wanted to know 4057 better than anybody else in the industry, and I dedicated part of my career to that. And from that, I developed a good reputation over there. Wayne Poplin, as you remember, Commissioner Poplin unfortunately passed away in 2020. And when that happened, Andy Lee and several other commissioners reached out and said, hey, you're over here all the time bugging us, so maybe you should just join us. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and I decided to join.
That's awesome. That's a great backstory. You know, as an association, we work very closely with the Real Estate Commission, and I'm very proud of the professional relationship that we have. You know, some of our members see government as kind of big brother, or they're worried about who's looking over their shoulder. I see the Real Estate Commission as a partner in improving the profession and making sure that the commission has the teeth, the authority to tackle the real problems in the industry. Not only the problem agents, but the issues that are facing agents in their day-to-day business, brokerages as well. What is your now? You've had two
meetings: the June Zoom meeting and the August in-person meeting.
So Administrator Rod Atkinson has
a gift. I mean, he's beyond a gift to us.
He's a tremendous asset for the commission, and personally, I'm proud to call Rod a friend.
Yes.
We've collaborated on a lot of issues over the years, and like I said, he's an absolute gem when it comes to building bridges and sharing information.
An amount of information, unreal.
It's overwhelming what he has to do on a day-to-day basis. What's been your experience with the commission so far? Now that you've been there for a couple of meetings, do you regret it? Are you looking forward to tackling some big issues?
It really was eye-opening because, like you said, I think a lot of people in the industry do look at the commission as this big brother who is looking to punish agents, that we're trying to go after agents, and that's their whole agenda. And maybe as a defense attorney being over there 50-plus times, I kind of had that opinion too, that these guys just want to take license. And the first thing that really stood out to me when I got on this, Nick, was these professionals that are on the commission are tremendous people. And when you talk about somebody like a John Reinhardt, I don't know if y'all have had a chance to meet this gentleman. He is one of the most remarkable human beings. You know, Candace Pratt, Janelle Mitchell. I can name everyone. Andy Lee, if I forget anybody, I apologize. But they don't have a set agenda, except for two things. Their number one agenda is to protect the public, because that is what the agenda of the board is. I mean, that is our charge. And the second thing is, which I found remarkable, is it's not just about protecting the public with these guys. It's about how can we help real estate agents become better professionals at what they do. And so the big eye-opening thing to me was I kind of went in there with, kind of a guard up a little bit of, I'm going to have to change things because these agents and these commissioners are going to be against agents and I'm for agents. It's not that way at all. So I'm very thrilled about that, and it's really exciting to see that aspect of it, but also to see the things that we're trying to work on and trying to make improvements on. And John Reinhardt is a tremendous resource. He's just got back from Morello, which is the association of all the commissioners across the country, and they come together. And what I also found out, which was very eye-opening, is the issues that you deal with here are the same issues that they deal with in Chicago, are the same issues they deal with San Diego. You name the state, we're all dealing with pretty much the same issues. So it's been a real pleasure to kind of see behind the curtain to see what's going on.
John Reinhardt has served as president of our association, right, as has his son, Jay Reinhardt.
Right.
John, when I first joined the association, late '94, so we came into the business about the same time. John gave me some of the best real estate advice I've ever received.
What's that?
He said, buy real estate and never sell it. He said, rent it. And
nice.
And John is a wonderful person, a great realtor, and I know I'm proud to call him a friend as well.
My problem in real estate is I like to buy at the height of the market and sell when the market collapses. That's how I do real estate. I'm great at it.
We'll introduce you to some members who can give you a little bit better advice.
I might have to talk to some more agents to correct me on that.
But so the commission is in many respects has this huge charge to protect the public, to enforce the real estate laws, and in many instances, the commission staff find themselves needing more help, needing more resources. What do you see as the biggest challenges or opportunities for the commission in the year ahead?
A lot of the challenges have been through COVID. A lot of our hearings have been delayed, so we're going to have a tremendous backlog of hearings and things that need to get done. I think there's tremendous opportunities in there because what we're looking at is a lot of things have changed because of COVID, the way that industry is continuing to change, which brings us a lot of challenges but also a lot of opportunities. And what I mean by that is our statute, it can't be rewritten every year. It's just they don't have the time over at the State House to rewrite it. But what we see, and this creates a huge challenge, is our technology. And this is a prime example of the technology of how we change. Who thought 5 years ago that you and I would be sitting here doing a podcast together? I've never even thought of that. But the technology is changing so greatly and how things are being done in our industry that creates a big challenge for us as commissioners of how do we keep up with that. And I'll give you an example. it hasn't been very long ago that real estate agents held earnest money. And now we're seeing in this industry that is pretty much going away, that it is now the closing attorney is holding the earnest money. Well, when you look at the statute talks about an agent having 24 hours or one business day to deliver a check that's written to the broker. Well, if the broker's not holding the check and it's being held by the attorney, do we still have the obligation to hand the check to the broker, to go back and get it from the broker, to go take it to the law firm? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Right. And so we talk about things like that and how things are changing, technology is changing. And so that's going to be a big issue for us, is how do we navigate through that? But that at the same time brings up a lot of excitement and a lot of new ways of looking at things. And I think in the next 2 to 3 years before us, I think that the technology is going to continue to evolve, and that's how we're going to have to look at how our practice is going to change because of this technology. And so it's really exciting.
I agree, Gary. There is so the one thing that's always been constant in our industry is change. That we're constantly reacting to either outside forces or internal things that are changing our industry. But what has been different the last 10 years, in my opinion, is the rate of that change has increased.
Right.
It's a much faster pace of change. And you're right. I think many elements of our statute were written not without the internet, without some of the technologies we have today in mind. I mean, things we never could have thought of.
Right.
Virtual brokerages and all of the other
artificial intelligence.
AI and all of the other tools that our members are using to collect earnest money electronically.
Right.
And the list goes on. And I'm excited to work with the commission to address these and so that we can have a modern, flexible real estate industry in our state, so that our members can prosper, and at the same time, the clients and customers they serve can get the very best in that home buying or home selling experience that they can get.
Speed right now, I'm talking to a gentleman who's going to be on my podcast in a couple of days. He's out of Chicago, and the topic's going to be what's the biggest disruptor in our industry. And right now, the biggest disruptor in our industry is speed. You're bringing in a whole sector of consumers, the millennials and the generation, what's that, Z, I guess they call them now, that are young, and they're used to having information at their fingertips. And I was watching a show on TV the other day called The Goldbergs, and takes place in 1980, and one of the characters were arguing about who was not in a particular movie, and they're like, well, we're going to call the library, and then we'll go down there and get the microfiche, and after about 4 or 5 hours, we'll find out the answer, and then I'll prove to you I was right. Think of that today, that you can pull up your cell phone and get that answer immediately, or you can just say out loud, Alexa, who did what, and get that answer. And so this whole generation is so different than my generation and your generation. I think we're about the same age, that everything is on demand in my hand right now. And so you're trying to move an industry that is used to slow pace, 45 days, we'll get it closed, we need all this paperwork, to change that whole mindset that the consumer wants it now, and they want to be able to look at things now, they want to be able to make a decision now, sign a contract now, sign documents now. And so that's a big challenge. But Eddie Yandel, who is a good friend of mine, he's owner of Executive Construction, he gave me similar advice one time. He said, if you're not changing every 3 years, you're 3 years behind the 8 ball. And he's correct, because this industry, just in the last 3 years, it's not like in 95 when you and I came in and internet was just starting. I mean, I remember being the attorney who said, we don't need internet in our office because everybody's just going to play on it. Well, I mean, internet's not even a thing that people think about anymore. It's just a given. So think of how much that's changed.
I created our first email listserv with 200 email addresses back then. And it was, I thought, wow, we've got this great new communication tool. And our surveys at the time said, email, we want printed newsletters.
I remember agents driving around with their car with stacks of contracts because, you certainly couldn't go print something off or fill it in on a PDF form.
Last year we encouraged the legislature to adopt remote online notary laws, which
and I appreciate you doing that.
Which many states around the country did by emergency order,
right?
Because of COVID, and we weren't able to get the full electronic notary that almost half the states now have in state law. The Bar Association had expressed some concerns over some security issues and some other. I think they had a couple of valid reasons.
Their main reason is they think it's going to cut them out out of it, which is not going to happen.
Which is not going to happen, and we argued that. Right. But it's the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
Right.
And so we got the first steps in, and we'll continue to chip away at that.
My law partner, Cynthia Blair, I think worked with you on that. She was the president of the American Land Title Association, so she had a good knowledge on that. She's been working to get that done. I do know we have electronic notary.
Right.
It's a little bit different where we can have you now sign documents electronically in front of us, and then we can notarize you electronically, but it's not what we need, which is remote online notary, which will change the industry.
Yeah, it will. I think so.
For the good.
You mentioned your podcast a minute ago.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that and how that fits in with your law practice and how that fits with your new role at the commission.
I started a podcast back last September, and some people have been asking me to do that because I like to teach classes. I teach for the Central Carolina Realtors Association, and I did the first podcast, I think it was with Candace McEwen at Excel Realty, and we were talking about wholesaling, which was a very hot topic then and remains a hot topic. It
still is a hot topic.
Something we're dealing with at the Real Estate Commission as well. And so that podcast went crazy. It almost went viral here in the local community, and so I was going to do it once a month, and it wound up being once a week. And so we're on episode 43. We've done things talking about appraisal gaps. We've talked about how to represent buyers when the seller is a for sale by owner. We've talked about escalation clauses. And the podcast has grown so much in just those 43 episodes that now I am experiencing what I never thought I would experience is I'm having talent scouts call us and say, I have this talent that I would like to have on your show. So like, for example, last week we had an Inman Connect contributor named Nate Jones from Structurally. He runs a company that's AI and is really amazing. And so we had him on the show. I've had a gentleman from New Hampshire come on and talk about Google ads and how not to make, I think the topic was how to make your Google ads not suck, which was kind of funny. We have a guy coming on who's going to talk about the big disruptors in our industry, which was speed. So it's just grown organically. It's been a lot of fun, and you're going to be on it here with me very shortly. So I'm really excited about that. Love to ask agents if you like it to please like it, subscribe to it, share it. You can also please let other agents around the country know about it. We have a good following in Cleveland, which is one of my favorite places. Seattle, Denver, Atlanta. We're starting to really pick up some energy on it, and it's called Dish and Dirt. You simply go to Apple or any podcast and type in Dish and Dirt or Gary Pickren, and it'll pop right on up. Or go to our website, blaircato.com, and it's a little button up there.
I'll make sure Mike puts links in the show notes, and so everybody can find it really easily. What's been the most interesting topic that you think you've covered on your podcast?
The most probably interesting one, real estate, that relates to exactly what we're doing and even talking about on the commission, has been the escalation clause. I get calls all the time about how to handle escalation clause and this appraisal gap. That's just an absolute mess right now of how agents are doing that. Unfortunately, we're getting a lot of problems coming up because it's not being written properly. And I appreciate what you and Byron King have always said, the attorney for the association, is when you start having to use punctuation, it's probably a good time to call a lawyer and let them look at it. And that's what we're seeing a lot of times, is these things just aren't written properly, and it's causing issues.
Yeah, our forms committee, Gary, is actually discussing switching our main sales agreement to solely due diligence.
Nice.
And what we've been finding is that there are too many agents that are arguing over the language in the contract,
right,
instead of negotiating and closing the deal. And we've got to simplify that provision. Realtors, it'll probably be a few more months, but look for some announcements, I think by the end of the year, on some major changes to our agreements to address some of those issues.
That is an interesting thing, Nick, because one of the very first legal tips I ever did, and when I first started my legal tips, it's called Legal Tips with Gary, and you can find it on blaircato.com. It was when I was working for Russell Jeffcoat, and I just wrote it as an email, guys, stop this. And the legal tip was, you've got to quit making decisions for your client. It's not your house. They make the decision. And the example I'd use was there was a real estate agent. They were fighting over, I think it was like a GFI outlet had gone bad. It was $50. And it was such a nightmare closing. The buyer finally, and the seller just wrote a check and said, here's $50, and gave it to the buyer. At the end, the real estate agents left and felt like they'd done this great job arguing about this. the seller tore up the check and handed it back, or the buyer tore up the check and handed it back to the seller and said, I didn't care about that. I don't even know why she brought it up. And my point was, in our industry, we're so interested sometimes in being right, winning. It's not about you being right and winning. You win when your client is happy. When your client completes their goal, which is to buy a house or sell the house, that's when we win. And our biggest mistake we make is believing this is our fight. It's your client's fight. You advocate and you counsel and you advise your client, but ultimately your client makes a decision. And so that goes right along with what you're talking about with the contract and people arguing over that. Get the deal done. You can either be someone who stands in the way of the deal or be an agent who gets the deal done. The agents who get the deal done get a lot more business.
Yep,
no doubt about it.
Great point, Gary. And that could be a discussion for a whole nother episode where we talk about just not just business ethics, but just being nice to each other.
Yes.
Some civility that we've lost.
Because of COVID.
And all the political divisiveness and the pandemic and then you've got all the other stuff that's kind of wrapped up and created this perfect storm of animosity among friends and even family members. And,
sad.
And I'm hopeful that we can get past that. So I've got a couple of lightning round questions for you real quick. So your favorite book?
Anything history. I was a history major at Wofford College, and so for a long time I read everything I could get my hands on World War II, and now I've started reading anything in anything about the 2000s, anything 2000s, 1900s. I love current history and modern history.
So I'm a little worried now because I was a history major in undergrad, and I loved World War II books.
Right.
My favorite have been the kind of Pacific theater.
Okay, I've been Europe.
We both have a little history with Boy Scouts.
Right.
And although you're congratulations on earning your Eagle Scout
Thank
Award. You mentioned earlier a little something about Cleveland.
Yes,
what's your connection to Cleveland?
I like bad football, I guess. I have a client in Cleveland. I represent a relocation company that's based in Independence, and I went to Cleveland and was walking around. And at the time, I think the Browns were like 0-6, 0-7, which was coming off a typical year for the Browns. And I noticed everywhere you looked, there were signs, "Go Browns." And I'm like, these guys up here get beat down every year with the Cleveland Browns, but they keep fighting for them. And I just realized what great sports fans and what a great sports town it was. And so my son and I started rooting for the Cleveland Browns basically off of that. And now I'm just happy to say the Browns is the Browns is. I think your Steelers have called us. And yes, we happily take that moniker now.
Wow. So we're both history majors.
Right.
We both are lawyers.
Right.
Came out about the same time.
Yep.
We both are big Gamecock fans.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I like bad football, remember. I'm sorry. But
well, it builds character.
Yes,
Being a Gamecock builds
That's right.
character. But we're completely opposite when it comes to pro football.
Yes, he's a Steeler fan, and there gets no more opposite than a Steeler fan.
Well, Gary, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time today.
I appreciate you having me.
This has been fun. I hope we get to do this again.
Anytime.
Again, my thanks to Administrator Rod Atkinson and Chairman Andy Lee for their leadership and support at the Real Estate Commission. Thank you to all our realtors that are tuning in and listening. We'll have another exciting episode for you here very soon. In the meantime, make sure you check out my almost daily, it seems like daily, but it's not really daily. I do these Facebook Live video updates. We're on, I think, episode 221 of those, and where I try to give you a little more timely information on what's happening in the industry. So Michael put a link to our Facebook page as well. And Gary, thanks again. Thank you for your service. And to all our realtors out there, stay safe, stay realtor strong, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.
For past and future episodes, check out the Good Life podcast at goodlife.screaltors.org. Thanks for tuning in.